The ocean keeps many secrets, but some are never meant to be found. On the edge of a forgotten island stood Blackstone Lighthouse. It had guided ships safely for more than a century before it was suddenly abandoned. Official records claimed the lighthouse was closed after a violent storm, damaged its foundation. But the old fishermen who still sailed these waters whispered a different story. They believed something terrible had happened inside the tower, something so horrifying that everyone involved agreed to bury the truth forever. People who sailed too close at night often reported seeing a bright beam sweeping across the sea, even though the lighthouse had no electricity. Others claimed they heard a foghorn echoing through the darkness when the weather was perfectly clear. No one dared investigate. The lighthouse became a forgotten monument, surrounded by silence and fear. Years later, a young documentary filmmaker named Ethan decided to uncover its mystery. He had spent years exposing forgotten places and strange legends, but nothing had prepared him for Blackstone Lighthouse. His audience loved mysteries, and he believed there had to be a logical explanation behind every ghost story. Ignoring countless warnings, Ethan rented a small fishing boat and crossed the rough sea toward the island. As he stepped onto the rocky shore, an icy wind swept over him. The lighthouse towered above the cliffs, its cracked white walls stained by decades of rain and salt. Even in daylight, the place felt strangely alive. Inside, everything had been frozen in time. Dust covered the wooden stairs. Rusted tools lay scattered across the floor, and old photographs hung crooked on the walls. Most showed smiling lighthouse keepers and their families, but one photograph caught Ethan's attention. Every face had been scratched away except for one little girl standing in the middle, staring directly into the camera. A cold chill ran down his spine. As Ethan climbed higher, he found an old journal hidden beneath a loose floorboard. The faded pages belonged to the last lighthouse keeper, Samuel Hayes. The journal began normally, describing storms, passing ships, and lonely nights. But after several months, the writing became shaky and desperate. Samuel wrote that strange lights had begun appearing beneath the cliffs every midnight. At first, he believed they were smugglers using hidden caves. But each night the lights moved closer to the lighthouse without leaving footprints. Then came the whispers. Samuel claimed invisible voices called his name from outside, begging him to open the lighthouse door. Every time he looked outside, no one was there. The voices grew louder each night until everyone living in the lighthouse could hear them. One terrifying entry read, "Whatever is beneath these rocks is waking up. If anyone finds this journal, never let the light shine after midnight." Ethan laughed nervously. It sounded like the imagination of a lonely man trapped for years on a remote island. Then he noticed the sun was setting. Dark clouds covered the sky far faster than expected. Heavy rain began crashing against the windows, trapping Ethan inside. His radio suddenly filled with loud static before going completely silent. Moments later, the old lighthouse lantern flickered. Impossible. There was no electricity. Yet the enormous glass lens slowly began turning by itself. A brilliant beam of white light swept across the black ocean. The entire tower trembled. Outside, dozens of human-like shadows appeared along the shoreline. They stood perfectly still, facing the lighthouse. Ethan rushed to the window, but every shadow disappeared the moment lightning flashed across the sea. Heart pounding, he continued reading Samuel's journal. The final pages revealed the truth. More than 100 years earlier, a passenger ship carrying hundreds of people had crashed against the cliffs. During a violent storm, the lighthouse keeper on duty had deliberately turned off the light after accepting a bribe from smugglers who wanted the ship destroyed so they could steal its valuable cargo. Every passenger drowned. The dying victims cursed everyone connected to the lighthouse. From that night onward, every keeper who lit the beacon after midnight vanished without a trace. Samuel realized the deadly secret too late. His last entry simply read, "Tonight they are coming for me. I only hope the next keeper refuses to light the beacon." Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed above Ethan. Someone, or something, was climbing down the stairs. He looked up. No one. The footsteps stopped. Then came a child's voice. "Please don't leave us in the dark." Ethan's flashlight went out. The lighthouse fell into complete darkness. For several endless seconds, only the sound of breathing surrounded him. When lightning flashed through the broken window, dozens of pale figures stood inside the room. Their clothes were soaked. Their faces were empty. Their eyes stared directly at Ethan. He ran, racing down the spiral staircase. He nearly fell as unseen hands seemed to brush against his shoulders. The front door burst open, and Ethan sprinted across the rocky path toward his boat without looking back. Behind him, the lighthouse beam continued sweeping across the sea. The foghorn roared once. Then everything became silent. Ethan escaped the island before sunrise. When he later reviewed his camera footage, something impossible appeared in every recording. Standing beside him, in every single frame, was the little girl from the old photograph. She had never blinked. Terrified, Ethan deleted every file and never returned to Blackstone Lighthouse. To this day, sailors still avoid those waters. On stormy nights, they claim the forgotten lighthouse shines once again, searching for another soul to guard its deadly secret forever. So if you ever discover an abandoned lighthouse standing alone against the sea, remember this story. Some places are abandoned for a reason, and some secrets are far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. If you enjoy mysterious stories, haunted places, and chilling legends inspired by forgotten history, make sure to subscribe to Whispering Walls and turn on notifications. A new mystery is always waiting behind the next door, if you're brave enough to open it.